Hi folks, Mr. Teslonian here. Yesterday I showed you just a quick film of this system just being tested real quick. We just threw a little bit of wood in there. I just wanted to see how it was going to work before filling it up a little bit further. Let me go through some of the things that have happened on the last part of the build. You saw me put the top on. The last thing I had left was to extend this pipe, or to weld a coupler on the barrel so I could put a 2-inch pipe off of this. The next part I've got here is a heater exchange fan. This heater exchange fan comes from an RV propane powered heater that was inside of there. It's a dual fan and it's got an external motor, which is definitely going to be better to use. Typically you wouldn't use it this close to the reactor because I'm going to get drippage out of here from the bio crude oil basically that it's creating. So you'd want to put this after most of your filter system to start that process, but just to show you how to do this, I'm going to use it right here. We've got our air intake. I've got a couple buckets full of wood sitting right there, so we're going to go ahead and open this up, and I'm going to take the camera, show you inside. I'm going to fill it up, I'm going to light it up, turn on the fan, and I'm going to show you how this thing works from the inside there, how to set it up, how to start it. This should be a pretty good demonstration of the whole system in action before we integrate this into some filters, into the radiator and onto the truck. So give me just a moment, I'll grab the camera and show you how we're going to load this and how to start it up. Alright, real quickly here, just want to show you the fan and the 2-inch pipe that was welded out of the barrel here. What we really did was just weld a coupler. That way we can go to any other fitting here. We can increase our diameter right outside of the barrel or decrease if we had to. So here's the fan. Like I said, it's just a dual bladed system, side by side, pulling it in and pushing it out here. External motor is always going to be the best way to do this, obviously. So just wanted to show you that real quick. That gives us some range of mobility in our pipe size, and we can change that over. Once again, we're just going to walk around here. Let me get up on top and put some of this wood inside of there, and I'll show you how to light it up. Alright, here we are on top of the reactor now. So here's the first steps. We've got a couple buckets full of material. I've got a box behind me with some starter stuff in it, some finer material, and some paper. And I'll show you that in a minute. Let's go ahead and look down inside of the reactor here. Let the camera focus in. Alright, you can see some of the ash floating around from our yesterday trial. Alright, so here we are looking down all the way into the bottom of our reactor from the top now. I'm going to zoom out again. Just let you see what that looked like down in there. We're looking all the way from the top here. We've opened up the lid. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to start this system out. It's going to be a little difficult here. I'm going to have to hold the camera slightly off to the side, and I'm going to drop some wood in there. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to fill that bottom grate screen area up with a few bigger pieces of wood. Stuff that are actually going to hit all the way down to the bottom, like that one. That was a little guy. But we're actually going to try to fill some bigger chunks right on the bottom of that screen, so once they get lit by the finer material up above, that one rested right there, so knock that out of the way. Once they get lit, they'll actually keep the whole system burning really hot right from the beginning. Alright, well, they're kind of bunching up there, that won't matter too much. Alright, there we go. So what we're filming right now, it'll be a little difficult to tell. Let me try to zoom in for you. Is we're still inside of that elongated and narrowed spot, the actual condensing area there that I showed you on the build. We haven't even filled up past the point of that yet, and that's what we're going to do. We throw some bigger stuff down at the bottom now, and we're going to take some smaller stuff and start building up on top of that. This is just mixed sized wood that I cut up. Most of this was easier to cut with a machete than it would have been with a chainsaw. And right now, what we've done right there is basically some of those top pieces, you can see them resting now up on that upper ridge, are now up to the area where their airflow starts to build. And that's just about right. So what we've done now is filled the screen area with some large pieces, and we've now got, we got some ash problems. We've now got some smaller stuff right on top of that, filling up the reduction zone. And now we're going to take some really fine fire-starting wood and some bark, and throw that down on top of that, and then some paper to light it all. So give me a moment to grab some of the fire starter, and I'll set that in there, show you what that looks like. Alright, here's the final layer that I put inside as a starting layer. It's more of a fine mix. It's got some bark mixed in there, some fine sticks. This lights really, really easily. So let's take a couple handfuls of that. We'll stick that down once again. Let's let the camera zoom in a little bit there. Alright, so we're going to fill that in on top where we just filled up the larger material. Let's go ahead and drop a couple big handfuls of that down in there. Let's see. Got some stuff in the way. Still needs a little bit more. So let's give it a little bit more. Alright, so there's our final load. You can see how full that is. Now I'm going to drop in a bag full of paper. Alright, I got down real quick here and turned on our fan. Maybe you can hear it running down there. That's going to be your first step. We've got our first load of all our small wood inside of there. I'm going to light this piece of paper trash on fire. I've got some paper trash inside of it. We're going to drop that down the hole. And we're going to drop some of this finer wood right on top of it. Of course, that's if the lighter wants to light for me here. There we go. Alright, so we've got that lit. Let's give that just a second, try to get some material going. There it is down inside of there. May not have lit quite right. We might have to do this a few times. So you might see a couple edits. But if not, we'll get it right the first time here and just keep going. Just letting you know if you do see an edit from here, that's why. So I'm dropping in just a little bit of that finer wood here. And that's going to help me get some of it going right in the beginning. Alright, it's going to be difficult. I'm going to have to stand pretty tall up here to keep that smoke from damaging my camera and the heat that's being generated. So we're going to watch that for a moment down in there. You can see how well it's already burning. Okay, we're going to let that paper trash and those pieces of wood actually fully catch here before shutting our lid down. I don't know how well that's going to show up for you, but you can see the smoke's already starting to generate pretty thick here. Alright, I can tell right now by the sound that we're getting pretty good ignition through the system. You can probably see in there and see flames rolling around a little bit. It's difficult to get the shot just right through the smoke and the glare and the sun and everything else. But you'll notice the smoke being generated right now out of the top is pretty good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and dump just a couple more handfuls of this stuff on there. I hear the paper being drawn down. Alright. Alright, our reactor now is fully started up from initial start process. That's the paper trash finally catching most of the wood we dropped in there. You can see the smoke output from our fan is already pretty good. Once you're really certain that the wood and the paper that you've put in there is fully on fire, what we're going to do is take a few of these buckets of wood right here, already ready to go, and we're going to dump that in on top of that once this is fully started. Make sure you don't put that in there until you're absolutely sure that what you started out with has already begun to coal. Otherwise, you'll just put it out and stop the whole reaction and you'll have to start all over again. And that can be really difficult since you don't want to start this from all the way up at the top somewhere. You want to make sure that reaction and the fire is all down there inside of that tank, down inside of your barrel. You also notice there our smoke content's getting thicker and thicker as this keeps going. Alright, so let's go ahead and shut the lid for a moment and let that work with the lid shut until it's fully gotten our lower reduction zone nice and cindered up. There's a lot of coals and red hot going on inside of there. Then we're going to dump these buckets in there. And you'll be able to tell that fan's really going to start pumping out the smoke here. Always remember when reopening your reactor top here, do not do it with your body above it. I'm going to go ahead and step down and away from this and get lower than it is, because the flame that I've seen at night come out of the top of this is a good 10 feet high, and you really don't want to be in its path. So always open it from down below down here, which this side I might have some kind of pole top piece right here so you can get to that easily from down here. Open and shut the system and not expose yourself to a possible puff that these things can do. So give it a moment, let it puff, go up there. Never put your body over the top once you've got any real reaction taking place. Don't learn that lesson the hard way. Keep everything out from above these things once you've got them going. So once again, that was just the safety part of it. You'll notice our smoke production's doing pretty well. That means right now what's happening is our fresh air input pipes are drawing that air right over the top of that paper trash and that wood we put in there. helping burn right there, and then drawing down that fire through the center of all the restrictor area with the bigger wood we put in there. Once I'm confident that bigger wood's caught on fire and it's not just a bunch of paper burning, we're gonna go ahead and start filling it up with buckets of material. So give me a moment, I'll set the camera up and you can see that from a distance. Alright, I'm pretty confident right now that we've got our reactor started well. I can tell by the smoke color and the output. I'm going to carefully open up the top of our reactor here from down low. I'm going to show you how to do this. Give that just a second just in case it wants to puff on you. I'm going to go around this other side, and I'm not going to expose my head any higher than this right now. And I'm going to take one of these buckets of material and go ahead and start feeding that tank. Because the real reaction that you're looking for inside of this system isn't taking place right there where the air jets are. The real reaction is the pyrolysis action. That's taking place due to the heat and pressure created at the burn zone above it. So now all the stuff I'm putting in now will actually create our synthetic gas we're looking for. So let me go ahead and dump one more bucket in there. Alright, I'm feeling a little more confident now that we've covered some of that. I can take a look. Alright, that looks like a pretty good load of wood. I'm going to leave some of that in there. I'll be out here for the next 10 hours if I keep filling this thing up, so I don't want to be here that long. Get rid of any of your top pieces here. And go ahead and shut down your top. It's ready to go now. We still have the spring to mount to this, but we'll do that before the project's all over. Hopefully you can see there that our smoke output is really thickening up. We can take a lighter to that quickly. I doubt that's going to light quite yet, but we can see how close it is. Neat thing is it wasn't putting out my lighter. That's pretty good for how quick that gas production. I'm actually already getting flare off. Alright, so it's not putting out my lighter. That's a pretty good sign already. We're going to let that run for just a few minutes. And once it's up to temperature, this should be producing synthetic gas for us just fine. We should be able to walk up and light the smoke out of here with no problems. So let me let it warm up and I'll turn back on the camera. Alright, this is a pretty crude way to show you the synthetic gas and how well it lights. I'm going to have to hold this all together while I'm doing this. But you can see what I've got. It's just a tin can on 2-inch piece of pipe. Allowing airflow. And there you go. Synthetic gas is lit. There's a difference without it being lit. There you go, that's it lit. There you go. It's not quite enough airflow. We're not cooling the gas quite enough with such a short distance. And like always here, we've got a pretty decent wind. There we go. We've got a good flame rolling out of there. You notice the gas is not going anywhere. There we go. That's great synthetic gas production. As long as the lighter's hitting it, it'll burn it. The second you take it away, you'll notice it'll come back. It means I don't have it cool enough and I don't have quite enough airflow. So we're definitely going to produce more than enough fuel for our truck here. There we go. It's staying lit now. That was for a moment. I'm going to have to be careful not to lose my eyebrows with this if the wind turns on me. You can see when it does light, it disappears for a moment. It's lit right now. Alright, well that's a pretty good showing. Without really getting it cooler, without mixing the proper airflow, it's about as good as an experiment to show you this as I'm going to get. Alright folks, Mr. Teslonian back here again. We've gotten our reactor done, which you can see back there in the background. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and start the radiator system that's going to mount to the bed rails of this truck. We're going to use what you see here in front of you, plus a couple extra things. As I find them and as I come across those parts in the project, I'll show you that. But for right now, this is the main big pieces to start out with. This is a square stock chunk from a bumper of a RV, or a trailer there that I tore off. That's going to give us a nice big chunk of square stock. We've got two 20-foot sections of that white pipe there. That's going to, each section's going to be cut into 4 chunks, 4 5-foot long chunks. And those will weld into the square stock here, which I'll show you. We've got our black iron pipe here, which we'll use later in the project. I'll show you that later. So the first steps, what I'm going to do is mark that big square stock piece into 4 even sections, and then go ahead and cut those out. I'm also going to take my first section of 20-foot pipe there, and I'm going to mark that into 4 even sections, and I'm going to cut that out. And we're going to go ahead and weld together one side of this condenser radiator system. At the bottom of this, I'm going to weld on some flat stock on there. There'll be a tube coming out the bottom, a 1-inch piece of black iron pipe going into collection containers like the cans we have on that project there, collecting our bio-crude. So we'll use that again. We're going to put that by our exhaust hopefully and be able to convert that back into the engine. So let me go ahead and get going. I'll cut some pieces up here and show you what we've got after that. Alright folks, Mr. Teslonian here. I want to take you through one of our first condenser radiator systems here. You'll notice the slope to the pipes. I told you I was going to cut that big piece of square stock into 4 equal sections. There's 2 of those sections right there. And then I took one of those 20-foot long pieces of pipe and I cut it into 4 equal pieces. And that gave me 4 5-foot long chunks. And you'll notice what I'm trying to show you here in our design is how this radiator system is going to look. They're not going to be straight pipes. They're actually going to be sloping. This will allow for a couple different things. First of all, once again, like the video for the bio-crude, let me see if I can get my hand set up here right. The smoke actually riding, let's say that's on the top up there, okay? The smoke actually traveling down that wants to go uphill. And so by pushing that downhill, we're actually forcing the smoke into the pipe constantly. The heat's hitting the pipe. That's actually going to help us condensate out a lot of the bio-crude. It will also give us a couple extra things here. You'll notice there's only 3 points here. Let me get the camera right here. 3 points where we need to put access caps so that way we can get in there and clean these pipes instead of multiple points for each pipe. Because they're so close together at those 3 points, I can drill on the other side and put a cap and a 2-inch piece of pipe there, and we can actually get in there and scrub all of that clean very easily. Second thing that'll happen here is I'm going to cut some baffles right now. Let me show you this piece of metal I have sitting right here. Alright, so I'm going to start cutting some baffles out of this right here. And what we're going to do is on this side, we're going to only need to install 1 baffle. And that's going to go right here. Right between the 2 sections of pipe. Let me set that there so you can see. But that's going to go up inside this square section here. I'm going to cut it to fit in there. Now it doesn't need to fit perfect. In fact, you're not going to want it to. And here's why. These are not just radiators, they're condensers. And so they're condensing out the liquids that you might gather within the pipes. That's why they're sloped. So the liquid can roll down the pipe and not sit inside of a flat pipe. So this piece right here, let's say this direction is top. That would be bottom. You want this piece in here slightly sloped downhill as your divider towards the back side. And then you're going to leave, either drill a couple 1/2-inch holes right here, or you're going to leave a bit of a gap right there. And then what that's going to do, not much, maybe about a 1/4 inch if you leave a full gap. That's all I would do, a 1/4 inch gap behind it right back here. Right there, you leave a 1/4 inch gap when this goes all the way across, and it'd be slightly sloped towards that direction. And the bio-crude that comes out of these 2 pipes will naturally hit that slope, go against your gap there, and come down through and hit the bottom where we're going to collect it out of both sides of these at the bottom, keeping the system a lot cleaner. Also, when you go to scrub them, it'll allow for a lot of that scrub down material place to come down through. So we're going to go ahead and cut a set of those baffles. Like I said, you only need 1 here. And that'll go right between these, and it'll be at a slope with a little bit of a gap towards the back side. You don't want the gap at the front side. That'll put all your bio-crude right in front of your pipes there, getting more of it back into the smoke. You don't want that. So you're going to want it to run down the back side at a slight slope like that. And then over here, on the other one, this will take 2 baffles. One will go in right here below the top edge of that pipe. And that, once again, will slightly slope towards the back edge with a little bit of a gap. And the other one will go down right here, slightly sloping downhill with a little bit of a gap. So you have 2 baffles that you can actually reach, and these can go just above the pipe here. So you don't have to reach down in there very far. That'll give you a nice open area there where those 2 come together. And then you'll also have the same thing up here. And what that'll make it so the smoke has to do here is the smoke will come in, have to travel our whole series of pipes. Travel back through that one, into this one, into that one, back out, and then over to the other side, which will have the exact same system over there also. So we're going to have twin systems looking just like this. So let me go ahead and get these holes right here, I'll show you what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and mark all my holes, take the hole saw, cut those all out. I'm going to set these pipes into place before making my baffles because I want to see where they're going to sit, and then I can actually, don't weld them in, just dry set. Then I can cut my baffles, put them in there, make sure everything looks right. Then I'm going to go ahead and tack weld everything and then final weld. So give me a moment to get that done and I'll show you where we are from there. Alright, so we've got our baffles welded into our square stock. There's the one on this side. And there's the one on this side. Alright, so that one had twin baffles. That was the design hole pattern on that one. This one here had a single baffle right there in the middle. And once again, how I did that was drilled holes on either side so that I could see the edges of it, as you can tell there, and then welded it into place from there. So if you can't get your welding head down in there, use that method. So anyways, there's the pattern on the holes on that side. There's just the 4 holes there. So we have got all our baffles into place. We're going to grind now, clean up all our edges, and we're going to weld this radiator together. So let me get that done and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Alright folks, we've got our first radiator built here. It's got a couple little things left to do to it, but we're not going to do those right yet until we get all the radiator system put together, and then we'll put those on and interconnect them all together here. So anyways, as you can tell, I put my caps up on top of all these, welded my caps on there, so it's a fully sealed system. In fact, I got 2 holes I got to still put in this, both of which are going to be on this side, either right here or out of the top for our gas inlet. And then our gas output will be all the way down at the bottom next to where that lower pipe comes in. I haven't done that yet because I don't have all the radiator system built, and I want to see exactly where it's all going to sit before I drill holes. It's usually a pretty good idea to keep it so that it all turns out pretty square. So anyways, there you go. There's our first bed rail radiator system done. I'm going to go ahead and get to work on the other 2. Alright folks, I've got my second radiator done now. Those are bedside radiators. They're both ready to go. I'm going to finalize the mounting on the second one here. Now we're going to go ahead and start building our third radiator system. And that's going to sit right above the cab right here. It's going to come up. I'm trying to figure out exactly how high right now. I'm going to show you when I get that idea kind of more stabilized here. I want to kind of do some wind resistance things. It might be sloped slightly. I'll show you when I get there and what that looks like. But you can see right now, that's going to give us 40 feet, not including the square stock, but 40 feet of the pipe here to run that gas through. And once again, because of our baffles inside of there, which you can probably see has a couple drip holes on the side there, you can see our baffles inside of there. Once again, that smoke's going to have to travel through each one of those pipes all the way through to the bottom. And that's going to make sure that it's equal pressure all the way through. If you've got one side just a square block, another side a square block, and they're just straight tubes without baffles, smoke's going to find obviously the point of least resistance and probably not travel equally through all the pipes, and you're really not getting effective usage out of your pipes. So this way we're really going to be getting an effective usage out of these. Another thing we're going to do here just a little later on is we're going to come in right behind any one of these double sections. We're going to put probably a 2-inch piece there with a cap here and there, up high and down low on both of those, and once again right here. And that's going to allow us a cleaning ability into those pipes. And we're going to have 3 caps, and we can basically scrub all the pipes from those 3 caps. Might go 3-inch, we'll see what we find. Anyways, want to go ahead and show you that. This is both bedside rail cooling system radiators are done now. I'm going to link the 2 of them together through that upper radiator. That's actually going to be the linking system. It's actually going to come out of the gasifier into our water bath, up into the radiator above the cab, which is going to be up and down tubes. Condenser radiator. It's going to go across into this one, go all the way back and forth, come across out of the bottom, crisscross back up to the top. Do this all over again, come out of there, into our hay filter and off into the truck. So there you go. I thought I'd share that with you. Let me get going on the third radiator and I'll show you what we've decided from there. Alright, real quick, I want to show you the materials you're going to need for the next part of this project, which is the Cyclone. The Cyclone's going to spin from one side, take the hot air directly out of the reactor, put it in the one side, spin it around. It's going to have to go down to about right here, and then go back up a tube and out the top. That's going to be basically how we trap some of that fly ash that's coming out and some of the heavier tars. There'll also be a drain spout, this bigger pipe right there, coming out the bottom and into a catch tank, which I'll show you when we get there. So anyways, here's what you're going to need. Just two 2-inch pieces of pipe for right now. You could use any size you determine. On your vehicle you might go bigger if you got a V8. But you're going to need one little chunk here with the threaded end that's going to screw into the barrel of our reactor there. And that's going to, the other side's going to go into the propane tank. So let me go ahead and cut 2 holes here in the propane tank. One's going to be at a side angle here pointing in and one out the top. And I'll also in the end up cutting my 3rd hole with the hole saw in the bottom here. And I'll end up putting all the pipes in real quick. Let me go ahead and get some of those holes cut and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, we've got 2 of the beginning holes to make the Cyclone here cut out of it. Let me show you real briefly here how that's going to look. Roughly here anyways. We can stick that piece of pipe down in there. Well, bottom's there, so we're going to come up off the bottom a bit. I have it flattened out for a reason, which I'll show you here. The other piece of pipe here is going to go in like that and come out. Let's get it in there right. About like that, into the side. Maybe pull that just a little bit more, kind of at an angle more into the side there. So there you go, basically the Cyclone. The other part here is going to go into the bottom, and that's going to be our drain out. That's where the ash and the heavy tars are going to actually drain down to a catch tank down there. Let me get that done and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright folks, we've got the completion of our Cyclone done now. I just wanted to show you dry set sitting off the reactor side. You'll notice the downspouts now welded into place. That's that red pipe out of the bottom of the Cyclone. That's where the ash and the heavy crude is going to settle to, into our collection tank down below. And out of the top you notice that our outspout for the gas out is well in there and welded together. We're going to go ahead now and put a box off the top of this and go into another collection tank, into a couple other radiators, and I'll show you those as I get them done. Alright folks, we're now done with the next part of this project, and I wanted to show you what I've done here. What I've added onto that is an aluminum hot water heater tank from an RV. You'll see the water outputs up on the top up there. What's going to happen here is the Cyclone is going to put all of its hot smoke straight up through a center pipe inside of this, almost all the way up to the top. It's going to come out of that pipe and expand to the outer chamber, right back down that outer chamber here, and then out through this section right here. We got a little wind here. I'm going to try to block it or turn here. So anyways, it'll come out of here. I'm going to open this space up so it's a lot bigger. It's going to go right into a 6-inch piece of pipe, dropping straight downhill because of the amount of liquid that we're going to precipitate out of that smoke due to this water reservoir up here. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and finish that section right now. I'm going to manufacture what I need to hook on there, and I'll show you that once we're done with that. Alright, real quick, I want to go over what we're going to use for the moisture catch can. This is 2 5-gallon oil cans, as you can tell. I've cut the top and the bottom out of one of them, so that way it's hollow all the way through. This will give me a large open area, and what I'm going to do now is open that back up, and in there I'm going to create some half-moon baffles that are going to allow for the smoke to come in the top at one side, have to drop down a baffle, back up, down, up, and down, and up, and so on, with a moisture release area out of the bottom here, so we can actually get rid of any of the liquids that we do accumulate in here. That's exactly what this will do. And so anyways, it'll have to come out the top on the other side after going through all our baffles, back out of the top. Now another thing that's going to happen is that red pipe there out of the bottom of the Cyclone is also going to come down to the top of this barrel, but it's going to come down only a couple inches from the bottom there into the liquid level that's in there. That'll actually take all the fly ash and any of the heavy crude dropped by the Cyclone immediately down into our crude catch. And then out of the top of the Cyclone, it's going to go into our hot water heater tank. That'll be water cooling on it. A heavy flow is going to come out of that because not only is it water cooling, but aluminum acts as a catalyst like copper does for synthetic gas. So anyways, the catalyst will help precipitate out a lot of that extra wood wine that's in there. It'll put it back into the tank. So the output from that will drop back into this tank again, and then we'll have the output finally at another stage out of the end going into our radiator system. So this will basically try to catch multiple times all the liquid being produced in the main stages, and in the end hopefully our radiators on our bed rails will also feed into this tank. So we'll have one large crude catch tank here and wood alcohol catch tank. So let me get that going. I'll crack this thing open here and show you what we're doing for baffles inside. Alright, real quick here, just want to go ahead and show you these baffles before I insert the last two into the other side over here. Pretty rough on the welding there, but this is what the baffle system looks like. You notice I've got a cutout on this one. This is actually the bottom side. This is where this is going to lay flat like this. And that's going to allow for any liquids that build up to roll between each one of the baffles, so I can have one out spout and they can all go out. Instead of having to fill up in each compartment and go over, we can get it to go right through and out easily. So smoke's going to come in the top, hit against that upper baffle, have to drop down, come against this baffle, come up, down, and back up again. So that's going to be the full cycle inside of this can. This is a big condensing can. This will catch a lot of our fluids, and with the baffling, it will help cool the smoke pretty dramatically. So let me go ahead and insert these two baffles, which is going to look like this. This one's going to go all the way down, just above the bottom here. Probably give myself 3 inches between the wall and the plate, and I'm going to weld that into place there. And this one here is going to go on the bottom, and that one's going to once again allow my liquid flow through the bottom. And I'm just going to tack weld those into place. There, our condenser jug is ready to go with its baffles. I'm just going to go ahead and cut a couple hole saw holes, and I'll show you from there. Alright folks, I've got most of this system built. I did a little bit of finalizing. Most of this is just tack welded now. I just wanted to see what it looked like all put together, so I'm going to go ahead and finish the welds, but first I want to describe to you exactly what we have going on here. Let me hop up in the bed of this truck. Alright, so what you see here is our smoke path is going to do this. Our smoke's coming out of the reactor into our first cyclone here. It's going to drop down, it's going to go into our internal pipe, come up out of this pipe, right here, into the center of our hot water heater tank. I'm going to try to block some of that wind, folks. Into our hot water heater tank, all the way up to the top, just about to here. It's going to come out into a larger expansion chamber, this one here. What's going to happen inside of this catalyst, and also it's getting very, very cold in here, is a lot of liquid's going to be pouring down out of that. This narrow reservoir here, this narrow area, it's wide, but narrow, is going to allow the smoke and the liquid being created to come in very close contact with each other, which is really going to help cool our smoke down even more. It's slightly sloped downhill, so all the smoke's going to come through this narrow area, drop straight down the 6-inch pipe, all the way back down to about there on our lower crude catch tank. And then it's going to go up into the center pipe, which is also a catalyst pipe, another kind of metal that's a catalyst with synthetic gas, and this is it right here. So it's going to have to go all the way down, back up, into this, into our first radiator. So there's all the gas entering into our first radiator right there. So out of our first cyclone here, the heavy crude and the ash is now going to drop out of this lower pipe right here, and down into our crude catch. And that pipe goes almost all the way down to the bottom here. You see I already put in a outspout. I need to put a plug in there, so we can now run all that heavy crude, if we want, back into the ash supply, into our heavy ash supply inside of our reactor tank here, which will actually help bind a lot of that up. And in fact, the heat in there will reactivate a lot of that, produce smoke from it we can actually use. So this is our holding tank for all that crude, our first primary big one here. And that system's actually going to have to run through it a few different times, like you can see there. And anyways, I'm going to finish the radiator top right up here. It's going to be a pancake flat radiator, and that's going to help cycle our cool water through here. And we're going to put a fan up on top of that for traffic driving inside of towns where we're low speed driving. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and start finish welding, pull that all out of here now so I can get to all the sides and finish my welds up. Alright, so we've basically covered what I've got going on here. What this will be doing for us now is collecting a lot of our crude system, and it's basically given us 2 cyclones in a way, and a water cooling system that's going to help precipitate out a lot of that liquid. And we also have 2 catalyst metals in there, which zinc, aluminum, and copper are all catalyst metals. So anything with zinc, copper and aluminum are going to definitely do a good job dropping out a lot of the liquids out of your smoke that you don't want going into your engine, and before you even want them going into your radiator system. So there you go. Give me a chance to finalize all my welds. We'll run the pipe across from the first radiator, from down at the bottom of it, over to the top of the other radiator here. And then I've got some other tanks that we're going to start hooking up, and I'll show you what we're doing from there with that little gas tank there and some piping.